Monday, August 3rd, 1:06 p.m. New York time. Welcome back, investors, to Winning Wall Street's Money. Start of the new week, start of the new month. Like to be aware of the stock indexes, the major stock indexes. Quite an interesting divergence I've seen occur. First, look at the higher time frame, the monthly. I want to identify, have we broken out of the July month yet? Again, I know it's only one trading day so far for the new month. I still need to be situation aware. So looking here at the S&P 500 stock index. Yes, we broke above the high of July. That yellow candle, inside candle, was the month of July. We already broke above it. So again, bullish bias on the S&P 500 stock index, which I've been sharing for weeks, buying on the dips. If you don't know, I mentioned last week, I bought the bullish swing trade position on the S&P 500 using options last week. After the FOMC meeting, scared the kids, caused panic, had the market sell off. I was a buyer. I did close that position Friday for profits. I didn't want to hold it over the weekend. I risk giving back gains. Sure, if I kept it now, I would have had more gains. And if I closed it now, I would have had more profits. Again, I still closed it for a winner. Earned income. Big difference now. We're looking at the NASDAQ 100. If you don't know, the NASDAQ 100, a few weeks ago, it did a rotation. It got rid of a company and replaced it with another one. It replaced it with SpaceX. SpaceX has earnings tomorrow. So again, those earnings will have an impact, of course, on the underlying company, SpaceX. I mentioned that earlier this morning when I posted that on Patreon. And of course, it's going to have an impact on the stock index, the NASDAQ 100. Well, the NASDAQ 100 is an index which is inside the S&P 500. It will have an impact across the board. It's a large percentage representing the NASDAQ 100. But again, we're inside candle for the month. We haven't even taken out the range yet. So it's more undecided than the S&P 500. Well, now we're looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's also inside range. It hasn't broken out yet from the prior month. Same with the Dow Transports inside candle. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average did decide it broke below the low of last month. The trend is down. And the Russell 2000, no surprise, inside range. So that's the situation on the monthly. We'll take it down to the lower time frame, the weekly. Each candle represents a week. We already know the S&P 500, yep, broke above the weekly. Look, that yellow horizontal line represents the high of the year, and that's where the current momentum trend is going. I have a huge consolidation here too. Let me extend this. Yep, big consolidation. Also, some people refer to it as barcoding. Building energy for the next trend, whichever direction that goes. NASDAQ 100 weekly chart. I'm sorry if I said daily chart here on this S&P 500, I meant to say the weekly. We're still on the weekly. Okay, back to the NASDAQ 100 weekly. We broke above the high of last week here. Nice bullish pin bar on the bottom, break above. But again, we broke below here. The trend is down. What does that mean? Well, it means the momentum is down, but broke below. Now you're seeing a retracement. If it goes up on weakness, people will be looking to trade bearish, trade short. The Dow Jones Industrial Average on this weekly chart here, I can remove it. It did a Fibonacci. Broke below the green line, 0.382. and then it did a reversal. So again, the Dow Jones is a strong bullish index. We're coming up to a swing high. That's where it's going to have a battle. It's either going to win it and the momentum will continue going higher, or it's going to take a licking and people won't want to be at that party. They'll sell off. Time will tell. The weekly chart on the Dow Utilities, inside candle. Weekly chart of the Dow Utilities, Weekly chart of the Dow Transports, still inside candle. Weekly chart of the Dow Utilities, here now, we broke below. Big panic selling last week. Again, people rotating. It's called sector rotation. They didn't want to be in the stocks related to utilities. Utilities are less growth. Utilities pay high dividends, but they're not considered growth stocks. So again, massive rotation, sector rotation. Opportunities to be trading bearish on retracements, on weakness. And the Russell 2000 already broke the high of last week. Let's take it down to the daily. The S&P 500. So this white vertical line, that was the Federal Reserve FOMC meeting day. Huge panic selling. Like I said, I bought bullish swing trade using options. We rotated, ran up. I closed them here on this Friday. And today, Monday, look at this big bullish candle. Nice. NASDAQ 100. Now we're starting to fill this gap. Just breaking it now. Dow Industrial Average. The Dow Jones Industrial Average. Look at this. It did gap up today, too. So let's label that as a gap. Be interesting on how the SpaceX earnings are going to impact the Dow, because like I said, it's not inside the Dow, but the industry is related. And what correlation? Well, SpaceX, just like it says, SpaceX, it has a sector in its company that relates to space. Well, in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it has a sector stock called Boeing. Boeing also does space programs. So one can impact the other. Daily chart, Dow Transports broke above the high of that inside candle. Dow Utilities, the trend is down. And the Russell, aka the RUT, broke above that daily chart. So again, the two strongest ones, the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones Index, the NASDAQ 100, the Dow Transports, and Dow Utilities. Those indexes are inside the S&P 500. Now let's take it to the top down of the S&P 500. Using the futures. "20 years of history here on the S&P 500 futures. Here's the low of the year. Here's the high of the year. I have a Fibonacci tool drawn on it. Again, monthly chart. We haven't taken out the higher low of the prior month. The prior month was an inside candle. It also was a dodgy, potential halfway point, potential reversal. Same that red candle, big body. That's concerning. Some people would consider that a hammer. Well, on the top of a trend, it's not bullish. That's concerning. Time will tell. The weekly chart, just like the cash index when I showed you, up strong, broke above. Still big consolidation up here. The S&P 500 futures. See this red area? That was a key supply zone being bearish. We tested it last week. We tested it last week and rejected it and closed below it. But the trend had reversed off that inside candle. Well, today we gapped above it. Up strong, look at the daily candle. Broke the swing high here. So the concern is, or the situation we're going to be aware of at the close of market, when the futures close at 5 p.m., we want to see how this candle closes. And does it close above the swing point, the blue one? There's another one that's coming up close to here too. So, oops. Again, this is the S&P 500 futures daily chart. This is the SPX cash index, which trades from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Well, now they let you trade it in extended hours for the options on it in the CBOE. I just posted that this morning on my Patreon page to show you what index options, cash index options off the SPX can be traded extended hours. Well, the liquidity won't be as good as regular trading hours, be concerned. But you have more choices now. You could do the stock indexes from the cash, or you can still do the index options on futures. More opportunities, more players competing for the business. Yep. Here we are on a intraday 4-hour chart. See this yellow horizontal line, dotted horizontal line? That happened to be the high of last week. I'll zoom in some more. Yep, the high of last week had happened to be that Friday. And Sunday night, we opened above it. See this red zone also? That was a supply zone. Overnight, we were trading inside of it. And this this green candle, this one, just got done at 1 p.m. So that was the 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. See this red vertical line? That represents the new month, which started Sunday night, and that's where we opened at. So we're trading above the opening of this month of August. That's good. We are also inside now a supply zone of sellers. That's concerning. It might have a reversal. Be concerned. Oops, I need to do some house maintenance. There we go. What I'm labeling here is a swing point. Help me determine if I'm going to take a trade. If I do, help me determine if I'm going to take a trade bullish or bearish. Might be a day trade or swing trade. I'll have a test of this key level. Used a lot of energy. Look at this. 4-hour candles use a lot of energy. Get up there. This is a 1-hour chart. Again, this was the close of Friday, that red candle, and we gapped up Sunday night. So we have a gap here. And it's not got filled. That happened to be the low of the overnight. That green horizontal line was the low overnight, and that red horizontal line was the high of the overnight. The high of the overnight was actually here. I just happened the midnight labeled, starting at midnight. So it was midnight. So again, take note. This is the 1-hour chart. I labeled the low of overnight green supply, and I labeled the high overnight. I labeled the green as demand zone, where there were buyers earlier looking for a retest. And again, buyers came in here. And the red was the overnight high, which is a supply zone. Sellers, but we broke above that. Nice. But we also had a retest here. So let's continue taking this to the 1-minute chart for day trading. Yep. Oops. Put this on one day. Zoom in. There we go. So this was last Friday. I'm going to zoom in some more. This was last Friday at 4 p.m. when the stock market closed. The futures closed at 5 p.m. So again, the stock market closed. The futures continued trading, lower liquidity, especially Friday. And closer to the close of the futures, there was a further sell-off. We closed here on the 1-minute chart. Then Sunday night, we gapped up all the way here. And then we had the overnight low occur here. Again, let's put this just to represent 1 day. I mean, sorry, 2 day. There we go. Oops. Let's update this. Correct the clock. There we go. So again, we opened here on the far left. A lot of whipsaw. Went down before midnight to that low. Coming into this vertical line was the Asian session, 2000. That was the low of the Asian session here. So if you notice the overnight low before the Asian session started here, then the Asian session low was here. So we're making higher lows. So on pullbacks, people were willing to buy early on pullbacks instead of waiting for a deeper retracement to the overnight low, leaning more bullish bias. And this happened to be on the far right, that vertical line. That was the close of the Asian session. After Asian session, a few hours later, comes the London session. But first, before the London session, we have the midnight crossover, new day. That was the midnight right here, vertical line. And this purple line I labeled the opening of midnight. I like to label that so I know during the day, are we trading above or below the midnight open? So again, that was midnight. Then we have the London session here, 0200. So the London session opens here above midnight. That's good. That was more bullish bias. But after the midnight session here, and before the London session, we have happened to make the high, this red line. I'm going to make it thicker. This red line happened to be the high of overnight. Again, after midnight and before the London. Now, I label these obviously after they occur. So if I'm either at my desk at 0600, 0700, and if those key levels haven't been tested yet, I'm labeling them different colors based on if they've been tested or not. So this, again, this vertical line was the London open, 0200. The London high here never, at this point, the London high here never went to the overnight high, which occurred before London. So again, it's a retracement because again, the overall was bullish since we gapped up from the close of Friday and Sunday open. And then the London high, we went down back below midnight open. And as we went lower, here's the London low. So the London low did a reversal. And this vertical line was where it closed, the London closed. So zooming out, just to look at the opening of overnight to the London. Yep, you can see. So here was the Asian low. Asian low was above the overnight low, and the Asian low ran up. We had the midnight open here, this purple line. After midnight open a little bit later, we had the overnight high. Started the London session. The London session highs filled to take out the overnight high, which was prior. So we had the trend down. The trend down with a London low did not take out the Asian low. They need more bullish bias. And then after the London session closed, some key levels to look at was the midnight open. Because again, when the London session closed, we were still back below the midnight open, but again, above the overnight low. So those are some key levels. This overnight low is a key level to watch for potential retest for trade either, as well as trading above or below the midnight open. So after the London closes here, we went above and below this midnight open. I'm going to zoom in some more. Going to zoom from the midnight open. Oops. So again, the London close here is 0,500. And as we start approaching the New York key level, 8:38, the key time, 8:30. We're going from here to 6 a.m., 7 a.m. But notice between the 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., we're in this tight consolidation around the midnight open, above the London low and below the overnight high. And then all of a sudden, zoom in some more from the 4 p.m. We have this big spike up, tested the overnight high. Again, I showed you the overnight high was considered a supply zone of sellers. Potential trade idea off that. Let's zoom in some more. So again, overnight high in a supply zone, looking for a bearish opportunity for trading bearish. Next 1 minute candle forms inside candle. Big wick on top, showing rejection of sellers. Momentum, couldn't even take out that first 1 minute high. Third candle, inside candle, two of them, indecision. Look at that, red candle. Red candle did take out that second inside candle, but closed back below the closed. Gonna zoom in, take it to 6 p.m. And then we have this. This white candle means it opened and closed the same price. And that type of candle was a dodgy candle. Means indecision. So all this occurring here, two inside candles, red candle reject the high. Yeah, looking more bearish, looking to take a bearish trade short. Nice break below here would be good. Or another fill there. Look, break above, failure, made a higher high, and rejection, big wick. And then the trend reverses. Yep, so again, even if you took the trade on the second candle, that yellow candle, good money management, stop above. And the big panic selling. Broke below the midnight open. We had a swing point right here. Again, nice place for a target to start taking profits, either at or a little bit before maybe. And doing consolidation here, barcoding, not good. Might be a run up. Again, I would take my profits already. Big spike up. Again, a lot of people got stopped out. That obviously have their stops there. So that was one trade idea. See, again, key level if you're around trading that time. So let's continue into the reversal. Yeah, we had here consolidation off some key levels, reversed. This 1 minute imbalance area, nice opportunity. Again, was it the 1 minute? Let me double check. Yep, it was the 1 minute. And reverse, another place for looking for a trade idea. Again, red, supply zone, sell off, broke down, and also this was a swing low. It broke below it. This green area was a demand zone. It broke below it. Broke deeper below it. coming into the 8:30 time frame now. Again, watch this purple line. That was the midnight open. This gray vertical line, 8:30. Big run up. You can see massive consolidation here. And from the early on, look, the 8 o'clock roll down. And then reverse, the 8:30 reverse, trending back up. Big consolidation, building energy here for some kind of big breakout. Approaching this 9 o'clock right here. So 9 a.m. just finished that 1 4-hour candle. It starts a new one. There's economic news at 8. There was economic news at 10 o'clock. But don't forget the stock market opens at 9:30. So again, we have a reversal pattern here. Huge sell-off before 9:30. So from the start of 9:25, the sell-off occurs. Sitting on hands, key levels. And you can see, zoom in. This yellow vertical line was the New York session open 9:30, and we came down to the overnight low right here, this green line. Let's zoom out. Again, the overnight low far left was there before the Asian session, and it finally got retested at the 9:30. Far right. Strong reversal. Buyers defending it and running it back up above midnight open. And then it broke above that 4-hour candle. So that blue horizontal line, that was the high of the close of 9 a.m. Again, that 4-hour candle I'm referring to is the one that started at 5 a.m. and closed at 9 a.m. So again, it closed here at 9 a.m. and it didn't get broken until over here. So down here as a buyer, potential target to the upside, because you don't know if this is going to be broken or reversal. Well, again, it broke it, but again, potential target, price target on the upside. Nice. And then the economic news here at this orange vertical line, 10 a.m. And now we're up here at 1:33 p.m. New York time, making new highs for the day. So now you know the stock indexes on this day, Monday, who the leadership is, who's the losers. Again, Dow Utility Index is selling off. The NASDAQ 100 we saw is the weaker, and we see the S&P 500 and Dow the leadership. That's right now. Tomorrow, next week, next month, it'll be different. So again, selecting good stock indexes for bullish and the weak ones for bearish and key levels. No studies, just independent drawings, artists for my day trading and swing trading methodology. Thank you as always, spending just a little time with me. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching.